Welcome to Anything New. My name is Opey, and always I'm here with Matt.
What's up?
And Pete.
Hello.
Anything New is now a live stream where we talk about anything we've been using, cruising, or consuming. Guys, we're no longer a podcast. Throw that out. We're now a live stream.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't really get where you were going with that, but I get it.
I changed it up. So we got a big episode number 50. The great Mike Singletary is my pick for the number 50. Anybody else got any 50s?
That's
the Admiral.
There you go.
Robinson.
That's a good one too. David Robinson is a good one.
That's also a good one.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of great linebackers that wore number 50. A lot of great centers that wore number 50.
What was Urlacher? Was Urlacher 50?
Yeah, I think they retired. I think he was 55. To tell you the truth. But anyway, so this week, guys, we have been off for a week. We've been doing some vacationing, taking some time off, spending some time with the fam, getting geared up for school. I know it's that time of the year for most of us, and where we start to hit that grind, get the kids back at going, and our lives are pretty busy. So we've got an action-packed episode that we're going to try to fly through this week. We're going to start it off by talking about James's pick of the week, Pete's pick of the week, which was Heist on Netflix. He wanted us to watch one segment of the Bourbon Bandits. I don't really remember what it was called, but it was the Bourbon Heist here in Kentucky. We're also going to talk a little bit about the new movie Suicide Squad. I think Matt watched that, and Jungle Cruise, which is a rock film. I watched, being the European soccer guru fan I am, Ted Lasso season 1. I think Matt watched Outer Banks season 2, which is all the rage within the young folks. He's a youth, and there's the youth in the background there. And I also picked up. Hey, there he is. What's up, boy? Also,
say hello.
Say hello.
Hello.
So also we're going to do, I watched a documentary on HBO Max called Peace, Love, and Rage. Is about Woodstock 99, which was kind of interesting. And The Movies That Made Us season 2 was on Netflix with a lot of great movies they talked about on that. It's a great documentary. Pete went out to Washington with the family. He's going to talk about that, plus the Twilight movie series for some reason. And then,
I don't know why that's on there.
Hopefully it's something that he'll indulge us with. And you know what?
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Pete.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you.
Day late.
Day late. Yep. 8/8/77. Turned the big 4/4 yesterday.
Yeah, that's coming down the road for me. The 12/4/77. It's coming. So TikTok, guys, we're on it now. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Something that we picked up and
boom.
Oh my God.
Boom. Jeff Bezos. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing.
And we're going to go over some pickups later. I think me and Matt both have some pickups to show off this week. So, So, James, why don't you start us off by talking about Heist? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, let's talk about Pappygate. So, there's a show on Netflix called Heist, and they kind of focus on just a few different. Netflix loves to do this thing where they dramatically reenact things, like with actors, and sometimes with the real people. So it's kind of interesting the way they do things. One Heist, I think the second segment. So there's like one or two episodes of one certain heist, and then Pappygate was the second one. So it might be like episode 3 and 4 or something like that. I might be wrong, but where it kind of focuses on 2013, some Pappy Van Winkle, which is a very coveted bourbon. And see, Opie's from Kentucky. Well, Tennessee, lives in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was in Kentucky for a while, so we know all about the bourbon. It's kind of their big thing. So there's this area down in Kentucky that's kind of called the Bourbon Trail. And all these distilleries that make bourbon, because all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. So to be called bourbon, it has to be produced with like a set of guidelines. And one of those guidelines is it has to be in Kentucky. Like you can make whiskey anywhere. You can make Irish whiskey or whiskey in California, but you can't make bourbon in California. It has to be in Kentucky. So anyway, the prices have gone sky high, and this story kind of follows around this guy named Toby, who is all these shows wouldn't work if the protagonist isn't a real character, right? Like if it was a good story, but the guys who did all this were total lamos and not interesting, it just wouldn't work. But this guy and like his family and his friends, they're all just like total characters, and it really makes the show interesting. And we talked about last week, what was the angle with baseball? Like 2 weeks ago, we're
right.
like,
Yeah,
what's going on here? Why is it in the trailer? Why are they showing these baseball players? Well, actually, it was softball players. And tonight actually came in from a softball game, so I can kind of relate to these guys. But anyway, so this guy, he's like just stealing whiskey out of like the different distilleries. Some of the distilleries, he's having guys bring in truckloads of stuff. Kind of starts out small. He finds out that some of this whiskey is like super expensive. He's reselling it to doctors, going to their houses. They're buying them for like thousands of dollars a bottle. Like it's just crazy. Well, so it kind of follows along those lines of introduces them to that, introduces you to kind of the whole inner workings of the distillery process and like why it's become so expensive and people paying all this money. Then it kind of starts to show like the bust. And then you kind of think, oh, well, this guy got busted. He probably did it. Well, in actuality, he didn't actually have anything to do with the main heist of the story. He was kind of more of like just doing his own thing, stealing and selling and stuff, but kind of got lumped into the actual Pappy Gate. And they talk about like how the sheriff of the town was kind of like, he loved being in the press conferences and kind of like he wanted to do the big bust so that he could kind of get reelected and always having his name in the paper, stuff like that. Ends up, it's actually another guy who was working at the distillery who got immunity.
Yes. During the interview.
During an interview, got immunity. They said, we will give you immunity if you just tell us, what you know and what you've done. And they're like, have you stolen anything? We're going to give you immunity. If you don't tell us the truth now, then you're liable in the future for anything that you don't tell us. And he's like, so I can just come clean now? And they're like, yes. He's like, okay, well, I may have stolen a bottle. And they're like, that's it? He goes, well, now I think about it, it could have been a case or two. So 2 cases, that's all you stole? Well, now that I think about it, it could have been about 30 cases or whatever. Like the number just kept going up.
Yeah.
So then they basically, the law was screwed and he got immunity and kind of come to find out they never really say that it was factually him, like for sure. But the guy who got charged, this Toby, didn't actually do the main heist. And then, so now he is actually out of prison and is serving the rest. I think he got 15 years, they said, for his involvement in what he did steal and sell. But they said he's out now and serving the rest of his time at home on like house arrest probation type thing. So, but it was good. I liked it. What did you guys think?
Well, I'll go first. I've been in Kentucky since 2001, and I honestly had never heard of this story, so I was really interested in watching it. Let me ask you this, Pete. As far as Pappy Van Winkle, because you're a little bit plugged in more into the bourbon circles than I am. In the documentary, it said just like anything else. Like when Britney Spears starts drinking Fiji water is automatically a good water, and it explodes. So there were some celebrities that for somehow it was kind of niche at the time. Like the bourbon world was kind of quiet pre 2013, wasn't it? I mean, it was like, here and, until it got like a couple of celebrities started like, tweeting about it and tasting it and enjoying it or whatever. Is Pappy considered a quality tasting bourbon in the bourbon world? Like, as a quality type of thing, is it not just blown up by the name?
No, it is, but it's not. I mean, there are better bourbons, but there aren't as many coveted bourbons. Like it's all just on rarity, like how much they produce and how much is available, and like how they circulate it. So I mean, we always talk on the Discords about different branded stuff, you know, like with shoes or action figures or sports cards. Like, you know, a lot of the demand and the price is just controlled by the people who are producing it. And that's kind of like with Pappy. They just produce a very limited amount. And so if something takes 15 to 18 years to produce,
sure,
you know, like think about that. Like the bottle that you're holding is 18 years old, you know? And so, a lot of times people will hold on to it longer than that. And then, you know, if it shows on it that it's 18 years ago, 10 years ago, that's going to be a more expensive bourbon.
So the guy is apparently, you know, he's one of these extroverted guys. He's running with the softball crowd. He's working out, you know, at the gym.
Steroids.
He's, you know, he's got, you know, he's one of those, everybody knows him. He's one of the loud guys that knows everyone. So, you know, he's going to know everybody's and everybody. And he's been working at this place. And he kind of starts the whole documentary off. And I actually work with a guy who actually interviewed for an IT job at one of these other distilleries, like Rose Distillery, some kind of rose bourbon or something around here in Kentucky. And he's like, you know, we were talking about this documentary and he's like, you know, it's kind of like a mafia-ish type thing. You don't tell, they want to make sure you're not going to tell on each other. There's things that go on that you got to keep under wraps and they got to be able to trust you. So that, you know, at the beginning, he kind of says, hey, I've seen managers take bottles. We drank on the job and all that stuff. But, you know, that was kind of interesting. But just the fact that he knew all these people just kind of being plugged into the community kind of made sense that this would kind of happen. But it just kind of got out of hand. And I kept thinking to myself, how do you make that stop? Because he just kept getting more popular because he could get that stuff in. He got ratted out. I don't know if he would have got caught if someone hadn't anonymously texted them.
That was odd. But here's the thing, like when you're doing that, I mean, I'm not a sinister man by any means, and I wouldn't do this type of thing. But if I did, I wouldn't have everybody's info on my phone. What is wrong with these people? And use
your own phone. That's what they got on. Everything was on the phone.
If you do that kind of stupid stuff, you know? You meet in person. You never leave a paper trail. What's wrong? Haven't they watched The Sopranos?
And then something else.
You gotta have a burner.
Exactly. And another thing is do you believe his wife was totally in the dark?
No.
Oh, okay.
Come on, man. Of course not.
I mean, she may have not. She'd been like Carmela Soprano, and not really ask a lot of questions, but didn't like say, "Hey, you know, we're not going to say." But in having the safe right in his room there,
with
I mean, come on,
tens of thousands of dollars cash, guns, and steroids, and I mean, you know that people. It's a small town, you know. Come on.
But I was, I was. He got the wild. I just don't know how I guess based on a tip, the authorities can come onto your property. That's probable cause, maybe, because they didn't really have a search warrant to find that initial stash that he had.
Right. Well, they were just there kind of scouting around and saw the barrels of the other distillery, not like related to Pappygate, but where he had bought like the barrels and they were under a tarp. So once they had that, then they had enough to get like a warrant. And
I thought it was really good. I thought it was a little bit anticlimactic, you know, because it just ended up just like, you know, it's, you know, he ends up, you know, getting all, you know, going to jail and getting out because he actually didn't commit the crime. He got a lesser sentence for what he did do. But, you know.
And they did say like that Kentucky does this program with first-time felons of a non-violent crime that have showed no prior history of any sort of crime, that instead of, you know, putting them in prison in the system for 15 years, because I've seen some of the shows. I like a lot of those like lockdown shows like that they show on A&E and stuff, where they say like you could take a guy like one of us three who's not like a career criminal but gets caught up in something and does 15 to 25 years and comes out a hardened criminal because they live the life of a hardened inmate for 15 to 25 years. And
it's like a movie called Shot Caller with Jamie Lannister. That happens to him. He goes to jail, and he's in there for years and years, and he like comes out like a crime lord, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Matt, what'd you think?
Well, let me tell you, when you said you thought this was episode 3 and 4, let me tell you how I know you're wrong, because I forgot that you said just to watch this one specific caper. So I started watching the whole series of Heist, and I started with episode 1, and I made it through the first 4 episodes, and I never watched this one, but I did watch the other 2. So I forgot you said watch just this one. I watched the other 2 instead. So I didn't actually see this one, but I can tell you all about the other 2: the stealing money from an armored car, and
I watched
stealing
that one
money from the feds, and yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That was my mistake. I forgot that. I thought you said just watch the series.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, what I'm going to do, guys, is we'll move on since we got a pretty long show. And I'm going to pick a movie this week, and it's going to be an older movie that's on Netflix that's been popping up on my recommended. And I'm kind of in the vein of I like a good mobster movie. I like some mafia or gritty crime movies a little bit. And this is an old movie. This was a 1988 film with Robert De Niro called Midnight Run. Have you guys seen it?
No, I have not.
a long time ago.
Long time ago. Do you want to watch it again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, like, this is an under the radar kind of a flick. It's got Charles Gordon in it. It's basically about a cop turned bounty hunter, runs into trouble, races from New York to Los Angeles with a fugitive accountant who embezzles millions from the mob. So it's got some older actors in it that you'll recognize, but it's a Robert De Niro film that I had never seen, and just basically wanted to watch it because it keeps popping up, and I'd like to talk to you because it's not Dynasty Warriors, but we'll watch it anyway.
I wonder if this is new to Netflix, because I just recently watched the trailer for it because I saw it somewhere. I was like, "Oh, Midnight Run! I haven't seen that one." And I watched the trailer. I was like, "Oh, that's Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro." And
this is a kind of like Donnie Brasco is one of my favorite all-time movies ever, and I love The Sopranos. I'm a huge mobster movie guy. Goodfellas, Casino, all the Godfathers, all that stuff. But a movie like Heat, have you guys ever seen Heat before?
Great movie.
And that flew under the radar. I didn't watch that years after it came out. I never knew it existed for some reason.
I don't think I saw it when it first came out either.
Somebody mentioned it to me, and I had to watch it. And this is another one I hope is like that too. So I don't know how good it will be, but we'll get some reviews and we'll watch it again. So hopefully you've forgotten about watching it, Pete, and we can watch it again.
Yeah,
that sounds good to me.
Okay. All right.
I think he recently died, didn't he?
Charles Grodin? I think so.
I think just like a few months ago.
All right. Stepping right on down the list, Matt. Suicide Squad was released. What was it, on Friday?
This past Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it on HBO Max?
Yeah. Simultaneous theater and HBO Max.
Yeah. Regular subscription, not a premiere or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. HBO Max doesn't have the premiere thing.
So anyway, basically, just to kind of head this up, I mean, there's been a lot. Is it surprisingly good rated? I mean, a lot of people are liking this movie.
Yeah, and you guys know how I feel about Rotten Tomatoes, but yeah, it's got I think on the first day or the day before, it had like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, and it's getting mostly overwhelmingly positive reviews from most people.
Now, let me stop you there. We've all seen the first Suicide Squad movie. So tell us a little bit about, I guess the difference is this a remake? Is it a reboot? Is it a sequel? How does this land?
It's technically a sequel, in the fact that it has some of the same actors playing some of the same characters. But it's more a soft reboot because it doesn't reference, other than those actors playing those characters, it doesn't reference the first movie. It has nothing to do with the first movie. I think there's a throwaway line about, Harley, what are you doing back in prison? And that's it. Other than that, it literally has zero to do with the first movie. And what I was worried about is a lot of people didn't like the first movie. I didn't really like it either. And I was worried that a lot of people would say, "Oh, I didn't like the first one, I'm not going to like this one." It's night and day. It's completely different. Yeah. You don't need to have seen the first one to see this one. It like I said, it's almost a reboot. But yeah, it is basically it's it's a James Gunn movie. So if you've seen, especially how Guardians of the Galaxy was to the MCU, this is that to the DCEU. It has that same feel, has the same, cool soundtrack, same quirky humor, same good action, all the same beats. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's all this you're seeing here, it was most of it anyway, is like from the first few minutes. Well, not all this bit, but I really liked it a lot. I thought it was so much better than the first one. I think a lot of people who didn't like it are going into it with the wrong expectations as to what it is. They're like, they're expecting grim and gritty DC movies. This is not that. And when they don't see it, they complain. But while at the same time complaining that all DC movies are grim and gritty, so you can't have your cake and eat it too. But I mean, it's action packed. It's funny. I won't really say too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything. But it's just like the first one in the regard that Amanda Waller sends out a group of villains, for lack of a better word, to take on a mission that's that nobody else will do. Idris Elba plays kind of sort of the main character of the group, but you have Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, who does a fantastic job. John Cena as Peacemaker. I really like him. And Peacemaker is getting an HBO Max series coming next year. The ending sequence that you're seeing right there with Starro is a little ridiculous, but not in a bad way. It's just like sort of over the top funny. I really like it. I recommend it to everyone. As long as you know what you're getting, you're watching a James Gunn movie, and it's silly, but it's action packed and it's got good humor, all that stuff. I recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, I plan on watching it just as soon as I can sit down and have it. And James, you didn't get a chance to watch it, did you?
Nope, I did not.
Okay. But yeah, it's a watch for me, so I'm going to do that as soon as I can. Go ahead and tell us about Jungle Cruise. It's a movie we've been seeing a lot about, and I guess The Rock can't do wrong because he's making one movie right after the other.
Right. Oh yeah, they're filming Black Adam right now. That's another DCEU movie. But Jungle Cruise came out a week ago last Friday. So this is one that I would have talked about in our last episode if we'd had one. But this is a Disney movie. The Rock and Emily Blunt. It's sort of it's another one of those like Pirates of the Caribbean where it's based on a ride, which is kind of weird. Like, how are you going to make a movie based on a ride? But it's set, in like the early 1900s, and Emily Blunt is a doctor who is going after this mythical tree that the petals of the petals of this tree can cure any kind of ailment. She wants to help people, and I found this movie to be very fun. Like, it's not going to win any awards. It is for sure a Disney movie. But it's got some really fun action scenes and really, it's a really fun adventure. I thought a lot about the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So if you're wanting to know like what kind of movie it is, think about how Pirates of the Caribbean was fun, had some fun. It was a fun adventure, but it had a lot of sort of, I don't want to say silly, but kind of silly, action scenes where somebody grabs a rope and has to cut a thing and zoom up while the bad guys are looking up, and then they have to slide down a thing, and there's all this fantastical music playing. This is a lot like that, but it's entertaining, man. I mean, I had a good time watching it. Me and the boy watched it together, I think on one night, and
what was that, a U-boat?
Yeah, and that's Jesse Plemons. That's Landry from Friday Night Lights. He plays a German who's after the tree as well, and they're having to try to figure out. There's all these sort of these creatures that are kind of mystical in nature. So there's a slight supernatural. Well, I won't say slight. There's a supernatural bend to it, but it's just a really fun family adventure movie. Like, really entertaining. Like I said, good action scenes. It keeps you awake. It's got a good story. I thought this one was fun too. I don't know what the reception was for this one. Doesn't take his shirt off at all? No.
Jeez.
I think it looks pretty good.
It does look good.
I think this might be a Ledford family movie night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great family movie, but it's not like, a silly one that's dumbed down like,
Yeah.
Air Bud or whatever. Like, it's a really fun adventure. And that's what I like, is I like adventures when they go on a quest and they're, in this one they're trying to get to the middle of the Amazon or wherever they are, and they're, chugging down the river in his steamboat, and they're encountering these different tribes and all kinds of stuff, and it's a really fun adventure movie that's you can watch with the kids, and
Nice.
and I liked it.
Okay. Well, let me tell you a little bit about a series I watched, and this is going to hit home for everybody here, since we're big European soccer fans on this channel, all of us. But I think Pete watched it as well, it's Ted Lasso on Apple TV, and it's a series that's been out. It's in season 2 now, but I got season 1, and basically what this is a series that's based off a American football coach that goes overseas to coach a failing soccer club or a football club in England. And the idea of this was Jason Sudeikis' character, Ted Lasso, was used in 2013 when NBC got the rights to televise the English Premier League on their sports station here in the U.S. To get Americans kind of, it's their funny way of poking fun at us. They did a character type of little SNL type of thing with Ted Lasso as a football coach, American football coach that didn't have any idea what was going on, didn't know the first thing about soccer, but he's going to be a coach of Tottenham Hotspur, and it's just a whole gag reel of him playing stupid and trying to relate to what the lingo and the different words and things like that is. So that's where this series was gave birth to, this series. But so I went into this and I was kind of hesitant on watching it because they poke fun at Americans in a good way, because we're just especially Southern type, because Lasso's got a Southern drawl, and he's all this stuff like we're just uneducated type of we're American football, let's just smash into each other, a tackle is a tackle, different ways. But I was pleasantly surprised when I started watching this that it did not do anything what I thought it was going to do. Basically, this first season, if you've seen the movie Major League, which is about baseball, it's basically an owner who's divorced, and her ex-husband, this was his club, and so she got the club in the divorce, and she wants to stick it to him because she hates, because he cheated on her, and she hates him, and she wants the club to fail so it'll hurt him, basically. And it's kind of how it starts. So what's the one thing she could do to kind of drive the club into the ground and just make a mockery of it, of the whole situation, would be to hire somebody not only from America, but didn't know anything about soccer in the first place.
I thought you were going to say she wanted to stick it to him by turning the club into something really successful and say, look what I did that you couldn't.
Nope. She explains it like in the first couple of episodes that her whole intention of hiring Ted Lasso is to drive the club down. And when I say that, in the league that you're in, you get demoted, you get relegated to lower leagues. The system in Europe is like a pyramid. It's like you have the leagues and you win your way up the pyramid. And if you lose in the bottom of the league, you go down. So it's something that's just that you don't want to do. You always want to stay up in the Premier League. You won't want to go down. So anyway, but basically when he gets there, he kind of wins you over, because he has all these values that he brings along with him in his own sort of weird, quirky type of way that kind of apply to sports in general. It's not just if you know soccer, or if not just if you know football. It's not just basketball. If you're good with people and you can recognize winning and losing, and how to relate to what people are doing, then you can be a winner, basically, is what it is. So there's a lot of different characters. It doesn't just focus on him, There's a lot of different characters, the different players on the team. They've got one of the main characters is their all-star forward striker. He scores all the goals. He's totally self-absorbed.
The diva.
The diva. It's all about me. Me the whole time. And he's dating a model. And she kind of gets involved. And of course, you have all these kind of stereotypes. You have the old grungy veteran on the team. And then you have the new young-blooded, defenseman who's from Nigeria, but he's always, supposed to be happy and bubbly, but he's having trouble with his confidence, and all this weaving together with different timelines. And Lasso's kind of right in the middle of it, kind of making it work. If you're watching this series to kind of watch it's kind of like, Friday Night Lights. You don't watch it to watch great football footage,
right?
Or you watch it for the stories about the people. This is one of those two, because they rarely show like a lot of game footage, and they've got some people in there, but it's really great. I mean, it really, really, really impressed me of how much I liked it. And I'm going to watch season 2. Pete, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, I kind of downloaded it for my trip and threw it on the old iPad, and didn't know if I was going to, I usually on a trip, I have plans to watch all this stuff and play all these games, and then it never happens. You just kind of get caught up in doing stuff, you know what I mean? But I had a 4.5 hour flight, so I think I'd watched the first episode just to see if I would even like it, and I was like, okay, I could probably watch this. So I downloaded the rest of them, and they go by pretty quick.
Yeah,
and it's good. He does a great job of kind of being that just a real Southern draw, country bumpkin type, and they at first it's just rubs people the wrong way, but then he always wins them over. He's just he does such a good job. I don't know if he's going to be up for any awards for this, because it's kind of too lighthearted, but he does a really good job. So I liked it. And I'm not a huge soccer guy as you are, but this could have been about any sport. And he could have, it could be about a basketball team or a hockey team, and you just change the sport and add in stuff, you know what I mean? But it's good. And so especially if you're a soccer guy, this would be right up your alley. I love all the little references to the Premier League and stuff. And it's just, I think the Hotspur is a crazy, awesome name. So it's good.
Yeah. Yep. So give it a watch.
Did she ever find out? I think I have one episode left. Did she ever find out about the little cookies that he was baking her? The little things.
I don't remember what episode it is, but he does say he cracked the recipe.
Okay.
On one I don't know if it was the last one or next to the last one.
Okay. She kept trying to find out.
Yeah, and he was making them.
And at first you think he's buying, he's making these little
biscuits
treats
with the boss. So it's one of the things that comes in the first episode. She's dead set on him failing, and it's in the first part of the season, it's really tearing her up that number one, he's likable, and number two, he's actually doing things that looks like he's going to succeed in doing them. So one of the first things he does, and he's just got this charm that he just charms everybody to death with, and she does it. She's real reluctant to give in, because she knows in the back of her mind's I'm going to have to fire this guy and humiliate him and humiliate the club. And that's the way that I was going to do it. And he comes in with this little box and he goes, you know what? We're going to do something, every day, me and you, biscuits with the boss. Cause you call them biscuits, we call them cookies. And there's stuff like that, the little back and forth that they do, because everything in England that we call something else, he makes a joke about there. So there's those little kind of tie-ins and things like that. So he gives her these little cookies, and she's doesn't want to eat them. And they're so good that she becomes addicted. She looks forward to them every morning. And then that eventually turns into them having a rapport on, every episode. But
she puts her henchmen to find out where he's getting these, because they're the best ones that she's ever had. And come to find out, he's making them.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know if she ever found out.
Yeah, he's making them. But and it gets towards the end, and I pretty much spoiled the whole thing, but you can still watch it. But she kind of has a epiphany kind of moment, kind of a breakdown where she comes clean. She says, I hired you to run this club into the ground. I'm awful. I'm an awful person for doing that. You know, can you ever forgive me? I'll accept your resignation if you don't want to. You don't want to work here. She even arranged for the star striker. See, it'll give you a little soccer knowledge on you. If you have a good player, like let's say you're a big team, let's say you're I don't know, let's say you're New Orleans Saints, and they have a really good backup quarterback that they want to keep because they know Drew Brees is going to retire, but they don't want to sit him on the bench because if they sit him on the bench, he'll just get stiff and get bored and want to, out of his contract. So you could loan him to the Bengals, and the Bengals could play him that season. But after the season's over, he can go back to the Saints. And when Drew Brees retires, come right in, So the main character, the guy that's the main forward in this show, he's actually at this club on loan from Manchester City, which is the best club right now in the Premier League. So she arranges for him to go back early than he wants to go to try to sabotage because he can see that they're having a good year. So that's one of the plot twists that are kind of in there too. So, it was really good. I was really surprised on how good it was. So I hope you guys can finish watching it. And I'm going to watch season 2 here soon.
I'm not a soccer guy at all, but I do want to watch it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Moving on, let's go back. Who watched Outer Banks season 2, Matt? Is that you?
I watched Outer Banks.
Oh, right. Now, this is something that hits home for me, too, because I've got 2 teenage children. And as soon as this dropped, they don't ever care about Netflix. And all of a sudden, I've only got the 2 Netflix login plan, and I can't get on Netflix in my own house because Outer Banks is on. Every time I tried to get on the first couple of days this has come out, it's like, there's 2 accounts being used at the same time. You're going to have to wait or log off.
They could just watch it together. They could just sit in the living room and watch it together.
Yeah, right. Go ahead. drop our knowledge on this.
Well, Pete, your teenage son enjoys this also, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And he actually had a little viewing party for the season 2 premiere. So they had all watched it and have been talking about it, and we're all amped up. And he had 2 buddies over, and they stayed up till midnight. And at like 12 something, they started watching season 2. So yeah.
So basically, it's me and all the teenagers watching.
The teens love it. Yep.
The teens and one 40-year-old dude. No, Outer Banks season 2, I think, dropped a couple Fridays ago. If you don't know, Outer Banks is a Netflix original. It's a treasure hunting show, right? It's about these kids. I think it's supposed to take place in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And it's very West Side Story. You've got the Jets and the Sharks. You've got the Pogues, who are like the poor and the working class people on the island. And it's all on an island off of the coast of South Carolina.
North Carolina, I think.
Is it North Carolina? Okay.
Yeah.
And so you got the Pogues, who are the working class, and then you've got the Kooks, who are all the rich people who are on the country club and have all the big boats and stuff. And the Kooks and the Pogues don't like each other, and of course there's all this rivalry and stuff, and it plays in a little bit. But the crux of the story across both seasons is that it's very it's a bad comparison, but it's very Goonies, where I found a map. And it said, this map, it says that there's treasure over here, and there's a legend of this ship that sank that has gold. And I just happened to find a key that my dad had, and we found the boat, and now there's bad guys chasing us because they want the gold. And there's something, and we have to follow all these clues. We thought it was here, but no, it's not. But we found another clue that says it may be over there, but there's people chasing us, and we got to stay one step ahead. And so it's a big like treasure hunting adventure show. So that is the part that drew me to it, is that, hey, these this is and the scenery, the cinematography is beautiful. Everything seems like it takes place at 6 p.m. at dusk or 7 p.m. when the sun is starting to set and the sky is nice and orange, and it seems like everything is that. But yeah, the scenery is real nice. There's a lot of time spent out on boats and oceans and these nice big exotic fancy yachts and things like that. Season 2 just dropped, though, picking up from where season 1 left off, and it deals with the treasure that was found in season 1. But then there's another treasures that they have to find. And so they get more clues and have to go on another hunt, and there's people chasing them, trying to get at them at the same time. It's really, from that perspective, I really enjoy the show. I like the treasure hunting aspect, and I like the cinematography and the scenery. Where the show is really bad is in two places. One, everybody who plays a 16-year-old kid in this show is almost 30. Literally, like the main guy who plays John B. The actor is like 29 years old, and he's playing he was 16 in the first season. The only reason I even bring that up is because a major subplot of the first season was not only was he trying to find this gold, and bad guys were chasing after him, but he was also having to run away from child services because his dad. I mean, when the show starts, his dad has passed away. And we learn more about that throughout the show. And his mom, I think, just left him or something. So he's basically living on his own. But he's 16. So child services says, well, you got to have a legal guardian. You can't live by yourself, and we're going to put you in the system. And he's always running away from child services. He is, and he doesn't even. It's probably the worst instance of casting an older actor to play a younger character, because none of these kids look like they're anywhere remotely close to their age, but yet there's a whole subplot about them being young. And one of the girls in their group, her parents are always getting on to her for running out and hanging out with these boys and sneaking away and not calling for days. They could have avoided a whole line of drama if they had just these kids are college age kids. They're early 20s and they can do whatever they want. The other thing where it really falters is these kids are the dumbest kids alive, and they make the worst decisions that you could possibly make in a given situation. So I'll give you a quick example. Season 2, they're trying to get evidence that this other guy is a killer. So they set this thing up where he goes to meet another guy. Sorry about that. They set up this scenario where the guy who they think is a killer goes to meet another guy. They're on a building across the street. They've got an older video camera because it has a better lens on it. They can see further. They actually get video evidence. And, at one part, they're like, oh, get down. He can see us. So, okay, we're good. Start recording again. They get videotape of this guy shooting and killing another guy. They have all the evidence they need. So the killer walks down, starts walking back to his truck. And then the girl, for whatever reason, stands up and yells at him from across the street, "You're a murderer! You're a murderer!
Oh my God.
We know you're a murderer!" And he's like, where's that coming from? So he starts to go where they're at. They're like, oh shoot, we got to get out of here. They climb down the ladder. As they climb down the ladder, they drop the camera and break it and ruin the tape. So all the evidence they've just got completely ruined. And the whole show is like that of them just making bonehead decisions just for the sake of pushing the story forward. Because if they just had the video, they just would have said, "Hey, police, here's," and the show would be over.
Yeah,
there's a scene where a guy gets stung by a bunch of bees. He starts to go in anaphylactic shock. They jab him with some epinephrine, which helps him, but it gets him all jacked up. Oh my gosh, let's go, let's do this. And he wants to drive, so they let him. And because he's so amped up, he's speeding down the road, and they crash the truck into a tree, which then allows the bad guys to sort of get ahead of them, and they're able to get the treasure. Any decision that is possible to make in the show, they make the dumb one. So that's where the show gets really ridiculous and takes me out of it. But the treasure hunting aspect and the scenery is really fun. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it's fun. It is a teen show, and the main guy and the main girl, they're in a relationship, and there's all this sort of teen romancy drama, which I know a lot of people don't like. But I like it for the adventure aspect, the treasure hunting and the chasing and the getting away from the bad guys and that kind of stuff. So in that regard, I think it's really fun. So if that sounds like something that you like, 2 seasons on Netflix, you can go watch them.
Wow. Awesome. So yeah, we'll move on to that to, something that we all kind of experience kind of coming up is the MTV generation was kind of. I wouldn't say around 99. It was kind of on its. That was the TRL years.
Right.
We were all in college around this time, or at least Matt and I were. Were you in college in 99, Pete?
By 99, that's when I had quit going to college and moved to Florida with my future wife.
That's
so
right.
We lived on the campus of the University of Florida in beautiful Gainesville for a couple years before we moved back to Ohio.
Nice. And rooted. That's when you come.
Rex Grossman, Jabbar Gaffney. I mean,
One
they
of
were
the
loaded
greatest
back
games
then,
ever
dude.
you guys to watch that year. That was great.
It was the greatest football game I've ever seen in real life. Was Florida versus Tennessee when Stevenson and
Travis Henry and
Clausen?
Travis Stevenson and Clausen. Yep.
oh my, it was like
Yep.
the final score was like 54-48 or something crazy like
It
that.
was crazy.
And it was like a 9-hour game, and Tennessee ended up winning. And I heard Rocky Top 1,000 times by the band in the swamp. Sorry, go ahead.
Whew. Anyway, so
Mhm.
MTV was a big part of what you listened to back in the day,
Mhm.
and around 1999, TRL was kind of a big deal. It was basically, and you'll see kind of where I'm going with this. It was basically a show that came on in the afternoons, and kids, basically got to vote on what they played on MTV. And there was one guy, Carson Daly, right? Carson Daly,
Mhm.
Yeah, Carson Daly. Mhm.
Carson Daly, that hosted that show, and a lot of bands kind of made their name on this show, and a lot of those bands were like Korn and Limp Bizkit, and then the Backstreet Boys, and then
Yeah.
Eminem was a big part of that during that time. So if you don't know what Woodstock is a festival that started in this. There was one. The first Woodstock was in the mid 60s, I think 64. I think it was, where Woodstock, New York, they got together in a field, and it was a bunch of peace and love, and a bunch of bands played, and it was supposed to be the thing that brought people together to enjoy music, and everything was well, and everything was happy, and it was flowers and sunshine. Well, in 1994, Woodstock, the second Woodstock, happened when we were in high school, and that was one that had a lot of grunge and alternative artists. I think Green Day was there, and a couple more, and that went over so well, the second one, that in 1999 they decided to have it again. And HBO did a documentary about kind of what happened at this Woodstock event, because music festivals are kind of a big thing now. That you got Bonnaroo that's in Tennessee, that's huge. You've got a couple of others that I can't think of any. Lollapalooza,
Burning Man,
yeah, the Vans Warped Tour, lots of places that do
Lilith
tours,
Fair,
yeah, outdoor stuff. But this one kind of went crazy, and it kind of went downhill fast. And this documentary pretty much goes over kind of a lot of the factors that went into play, because by having a 4-day festival, by the time that the end of the day on Sunday happened, all carnage broke out. People were pretty much tearing the place apart, setting things on fire. They had to bring the police in to break it up. It was just a disaster. And what it does is it kind of goes into, mainly it focuses a lot on the age groups that were there. A lot of early 20s white men were there, about the song lineups and where a lot of the bands were playing at the time. Like, they played a lot of music, a lot of bands together. It talks about a lot of the commercialism of the whole event, how a lot of companies tried to charge them for water, charge them for showers. Everything cost money there when you got there. How they ran out of stuff. How that was the porta potties.
gosh.
I mean, people.
So it's basically the Fire Festival.
It was
Only people
absolutely. And then, not to mention the sexual harassment, how women were just. It seemed like, not only did you have the 20-year-old males, that you had girls that, I guess, they mentioned this too. Girls Gone Wild, the video series was hot around that time, And basically, I guess a lot of the women just kind of thought that was something that was good, and there was a lot of female parts being shown, a lot of things that happened that shouldn't
Arms
have
and
happened
legs
there.
and feet,
But a lot of it, got blamed on, like you just saw there, Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit, because they had a lot of aggressive music. Metallica was there, Rage Against the Machine was there, Korn was there. And it's one of the biggest shows they've ever played. So these bands pretty much try to go all out. But needless to say, there was people there that just did not take to it very kindly. And by the third day,
ICP,
all hell broke loose at that place, and it was just a disaster. So it's a really interesting watch.
I need to watch this.
Yeah, it's
I want to watch this
absolutely, because I'd heard a lot of bad stories, of bad reports. MTV kind of really drug it through and rightly so. They trashed the place. There's a lot of bad stuff that went on there, but the kids weren't all at fault. There was they talked about one thing that happened is that they went on the cheap for security, and they just like hired anybody that wanted to join up and be security, put them through like a little YouTube documentary or YouTube presentation on how to be a security guard. And then they said a lot of the guys, as soon as they got their T-shirt and their badge, kind of tucked their badge in, got inside, took their shirt off, and then blended in with the crowd. They just wanted to get in for free.
Yeah.
They said that they were supposed to be taking alcohol at the gates or whatever, and they would just like take $20 and let people in with alcohol, or girls would show something and they'd let them in. It really was bad. It was bad from the start. I
remember it was the opposite of the original Woodstock. Woodstock
Absolutely.
was peace and love,
Absolutely.
and this was just chaos.
It was done at an Air Force base, and it was like concrete and asphalt, and it was hot. It was like some of the hottest weather they had. They had a few deaths. There was one guy that actually kept a journal the entire time, and he ended up dying in the last day, and they couldn't resuscitate him back. Because just lack of water, lack of sleep. A lot of kids would basically go all day long and then go to they had a rave that went all night long. They was like in one of the hangars. They had the whole rave and glow sticks and and all that stuff. So it was just it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And that was a time before one of the craziest things was that was really pre-cell phone. And there was just like this meeting area where people would leave notes. Like if you got separated from your buddies, like how in the world would you ever find each other again the entire time? That's kind of chilling to think about now, that in the age of cell phones and all this stuff now, how we can just, just look and see where you're at on there most of the time. But it's a really great watch, especially if you like music, especially like that. But one of the things about TRL is that's what a lot of the bands, like they kind of put that stuff up there, and the boy bands were popular, and Carson Daly couldn't even get out on the stage. Like MTV was just getting blasted there when they were there. It was hilarious. He couldn't even show his face out there.
Funny.
And they just threw stuff at him the entire time. It was great.
Did you see Fred? I've put on our Discord that picture of Fred Durst.
Oh yeah. I watched some
hilarious.
of those live performances.
I watched some of it too. Like it was so weird. Like what was he doing? Like was it just kind of a gimmick, or is that really kind of like his new style?
I think it is. Well, yeah. I mean, I think he's got the great stuff going on, and he was performing. He had the performance I saw, he had a cap on and everything, so he looked semi-normal but old. But he was still kind of just out there moving around. I was like, who would go? I mean, I don't really like. I liked some of Limp Bizkit's music at that time when it was hot, but I just never. I don't think I could go back.
It doesn't hold up, but I at the time I liked it, but now it's
so definitely check that out. It's on HBO Max. It's relatively new. I enjoyed it a lot. So moving on, let's go over to Netflix. Back to Netflix. The Movies That Made Us season 2. You guys seen any of this?
All except the Pretty Woman episode.
The Pretty Woman episode, because you haven't seen Pretty Woman.
Because I haven't seen Pretty Woman.
Right. So Netflix came out with these really cool docuseries. The first one was The Toys That Made Us, and they did like 3 or 4 seasons of The Toys That Made Us, which were epically great.
They're so good.
Yeah, and then they got this docuseries called The Movies That Made Us, which is pretty much where they go through some of the more iconic movies and kind of break them down and go behind the scenes and talk to the people that made these movies. And we'll just skim over the surface. The movies that were on this one were Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, Pretty Woman, and Forrest Gump. So those were the movies that you'll see, and they talk about each one of these. And, you know, Matt, we talked about this off the show, and I found it like kind of what you said was pretty cool, that it seemed like other than the one guy, the Jurassic Park movie went smoothly.
Yeah.
Like everybody, of course, it was Spielberg in his heyday, and he was going to do what he wanted to do, and pretty much what the grill, and it just kind of took me back to think that Jurassic Park was the first time we saw CG on the big screen. Am I right? I mean, that was the guy, he broke the ground with CG as far as the dinosaurs.
Yeah, because that one was interesting because they were going to do the dinosaurs with stop motion. And there was one guy who said, no, I can make this work. And they said, no, you're not going to do that. And he went rogue and did it anyway. And he was able to get the skeleton, the frame of the dinosaur working. He got it in front of Spielberg, and Spielberg said, that's how I want the dinosaurs to be done. And they were interviewing the guy who was doing the who was going to do the stop motion. And he said, and that was it. At that point, stop motion was dead, you know? So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like right then, that moment in that little couple months span, that's where CG became the thing and stop motion was done.
Right. And they interviewed the guy about the stop motion, and it was an end of an era. I mean, the guy had dedicated his life to stop motion, and he was known as one of the top dogs in that field.
Well, it was kind of heartbreaking because that was his whole thing, was he was the master of stop motion, and one dude just basically put him out of business.
Yeah, but the good thing about it is they instead of just kicking him to the curb and firing him, they kind of brought him back because the CG guys still needed to learn a lot about the movement of things from the stop motion guys. Like the stop motion guys would tell you, like, he's like, well, I don't know how this is supposed to move because I need to know how this looks in order to put it in, you know, the CG form. And that's where, you know, the skeletons and the frames and stuff like that the stop motion guy was really good at. The one thing I thought was fascinating about Back to the Future, they filmed a good majority of that movie with a different actor other than Michael J. Fox because Family Ties would not let Michael J. Fox leave the show to film it. And when they finally, and it's funny, there's some of that footage there of the other actor in there. But when Michael J. Fox finally got relieved from Family Ties to do this movie, he was filming Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night. So he was working all the time on this movie. But they knew they wanted him, but couldn't get him because of that. Forrest Gump was based on a book. The guy, Forrest Gump in the book, was going to be a wrestler. And it was weird to hear them talk about the book and how it related to Forrest Gump. And one thing other with Pretty Woman, it was a movie it was named a different name up until the point till they almost released the movie. Like they shot the whole movie, made like staff jackets and everything. I think it was called 3300 or 33, or it was a weird name. But they basically wanted, when the script was read, it was brought up that they brought in a comedian filmmaker or a director to direct it and make it funny. And the funny thing about this is, and you'll hear Seinfeld, what's his
Jerry Seinfeld?
No, not Jerry Seinfeld. Shoot,
Kramer.
No, not Kramer.
Jason Alexander?
George
Cosmos.
Yeah. Jason Alexander is in Pretty Woman, and he was interviewing him. And this director was so out there that basically they would give him, like, they would make them shoot the same the same scene, like 3 different ways. Like, do it funny, do it serious, or do it, don't think about it, or do this. They would shoot the same scenes 3 or 4 times, and he would kind of see how the movie was going to go based on how the actors. It was a weird way of shooting. They called it like writing on set, where he would actually write the movie as they filmed it. So that was some good points I took away from it.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought the Forrest Gump one was interesting because Forrest Gump almost wasn't anything like what we got. And what I mean by that is, think about Forrest, how iconic the music in Forrest Gump was. Well, they couldn't afford any of that stuff, so they nearly didn't have any of the music.
Yeah.
They went way over budget, so they said the whole scene with him running across America, get rid of it. Anything that takes place, all the shrimp stuff on a boat, get rid of it. Like they nearly cut out all these really pivotal scenes that are just a part of that movie that you couldn't imagine that movie being that movie without it. There's so much stuff that they nearly didn't put in, and Robert Zemeckis, who was the director, and Tom Hanks actually agreed to lower their salaries so that they could have more budget for the movie.
Well, and then they interview the like when you've got a movie set, apparently your corporate office isn't there, but they send like a lackey in to like check on the studio, and she was getting yelled at by the director like every day. Because,
who are you and who sent you?
And they actually filmed that whole the running part. They had to travel around the United States in secret. They would go to different parts to film it, and they did it in secret until they found out about it and tried to put a stop to it. But
and they used Tom Hanks' brother for like the wide shots and the scenes from the back, so it wasn't actually him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank goodness they got it all worked out, because and apparently you guys, I don't know if you guys remember when the soundtrack came out, it was a double CD soundtrack back in the day, and everybody had it. It sold like crazy.
Everybody was a CCR fan after that.
Yeah, I know.
A Huey helicopter and Fortunate Son. That's all you need in a Vietnam movie.
It's so funny. Some people will take, I don't know if we may have linked it in our Discord, but that scene in Rogue One where they're flying across the beach and that last battle, then they put it to the Fortunate Son. It's pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good too. All right. So tell us about going to Washington, man.
Okay, I will. So went to Washington. That's kind of where I've been gone for the last 10 days. And we just had like one of these vacations where, like, usually, I mean, my wife, normal vacation for her is just a chair and a beach, and that's it, for like 7 to 10 days. But it's kind of boring. And so I kind of talked her into doing a more adventurous vacation. And we went with some of our friends, and we had a blast. So we went to the actual state of Washington, and it was super secluded. Like, we were like out in the middle of nowhere. Like we were driving on through these national parks that are, I mean, it's like 4 or 5 hours to get through it, like from one side to the other. And like, it'll give you a warning sign, say your next gas stop is 75 miles. So you can't just like pass that up on like a third of a tank, like you got to stop and get gas. I mean, and like zero cell service. And like, we're driving in these areas and it was night. And we had no clue. Like, we were just going straight. And there was like times like when our GPS, like Google Maps, would just kind of like lose. And we're just like, man, we're just staying on this road and see what happens when it pops up, when we get service again. Because I mean, it was just like out in the middle of nowhere. But we ended up staying in, we had rented like 3 different Airbnbs. So we stayed in like 3 different areas. Did the whale watching tours, like where we went out on a boat. Didn't see any whales because even though it was like a really good chance that we could have saw one that day, they said, well, we didn't see any. But we just did a bunch of cool stuff. Like, we went, I won't bore you with like all these like family photos and stuff.
The pictures you put in Discord were beautiful though. The scenery, the mountains, so holy crazy. Crap! Yeah, it was like a postcard.
Yeah, I do want to show just a few of these because I kind of understand kind of what I'm talking about. So this is called Reflection Lake, and the crazy thing is, this is about the altitude of the top of the Smoky Mountains.
Okay.
So, like, we talk about Smoky Mountains around here, Appalachia. Like, they're kind of like hills compared to, like, out west. Like, where there's, like, when you see a mountain, like Mount Rainier, I mean, like, we're standing at this point, which is already, like, super high elevation. And then Mount Rainier is just towering above that. You know what I mean? So this is like, you're just up super high. So yeah, this is called Reflection Lake. Beautiful. I mean, it's just like, it's just incredible. This is like one of our hiking trails. So we went on like,
the mountains are what really gets me.
We're high right here. And like, you look off into the distance, it looks like we're going to Mordor. You know, like you can see like the trail winding down through here and then winding down through here and then coming, if you see my cursor, winding all the way off into the distance. We went on a serious hike. Like we packed for about like a 5-6 hour hike, and like it was a 5 or 6 hour hike. Like it was legit. And like the kids did great. We stopped and just relaxed and just took our time, and serious elevation changes. And every time you come around a corner, there was just something else to take a picture of. It was just beautiful. This is just another kind of image of us all hiking up through here. But we hiked up to a glacier, like a real legit glacier. And like I kind of turn around. There's all these signs like, don't get on the glacier, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I turn around, and then my 9-year-old's like out there, like walking up the glacier. And I'm like, hey, Pax, you might want to get back over here, bud. You're not really supposed to be out there. But yeah, just all these like little, you know, we just took pictures, and it's hard to see scale like from a photo, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, this is just like, that's so far off. Like that.
Was it hard to breathe? Was there less?
There
were
was
you
some,
so high that?
Yeah, there was serious like altitude adjustment that had to take place. Like the first 30 minutes of our hike was the hardest, and it was just like the air was thin. But then after about 30 minutes, you kind of got acclimated to it and just slow down. And if you got out of breath, you just kind of, you know, stopped, and we just really took our time. There was like a time where I kind of bent over to take like some pictures and get down like real low, and when I stood back up, like everything was spinning, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I kind of just sat down for like 30 seconds, and then it was all better. But yeah, just pictures. I mean, it was just amazing. So yeah, there's
Did you see any wildlife on this?
Oh yeah, look at this.
Oh wow,
look at this unit. So these little guys were all over the trail, and they know that like the hikers come up through there, and they were so just like docile. Like they would come right up to you.
That's a squirrel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's some type of like little chipmunk.
Okay.
And so they would just come right up and like hang out near the trail, like looking for like some sort of snack they've obviously been fed by hikers, you know, and they know that hikers have food, and you could just like literally put your hand on them and like pet the top of their head. Like it was crazy. So yeah, of course my 14-year-old is, you know, give him a Cheez-It from the backpack and stuff like that. But here's the funny thing. So the whole thing with the Twilight series was that I know it's so random.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and the town that we go to is a town called Forks, Washington.
Oh,
super like middle of nowhere, podunk town. There's like 2 gas stations, 2 or 3 restaurants. Like the school's super tiny. And like we go in like the first place and get gas, and it's like everything is like Twilight themed, and there's signs everywhere for Twilight. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. I'd never seen a Twilight movie.
Is it where it was filmed?
Yeah, that's where Forks, Washington is where Bella moves to, like where the vampires, Edward, and all them. I mean, but so.
And they like it there because it's like cloudy a lot, not a lot of bright sun.
It's not hot.
I heard. I've never seen Twilight.
They like to stay cool.
Yeah.
They don't like a lot of sun. There's cloud cover all the time from Mount Rainier out there.
Was it really like that then?
It was, like our Airbnb had no air. None of our places had air conditioning, which was really like we got out there and we're like, all right, let's first thing I do usually when I get to a hotel room or somewhere, I'm like 72, let's turn that thing down to 68, you know? Well, there's like no air conditioning out there because like their average temp is like 68 degrees, you know, like year round. So like you might get like up into the high 70s, but the lows at night are like, you know, 54, like every night, like year round. So like it kind of just cools off fast. But anyway, so Forks, Washington, we went out there, and like, so I was like, I got to see this. So I downloaded Twilight 1, which was on Netflix, and watched it on the flight home. And I thought it was awesome to see. Like, I was like, I was just there. Oh my God, I was at that stop sign. Oh, you know, because it was all legit. Like, it wasn't like they, you know, say they were in Forks, Washington, but filmed it on a studio set in LA. Yeah. You know, they were really there. Like, it was just really neat. So I watched the first Twilight, and I got to tell you, like, it wasn't that bad. So I think I'm going to watch the rest of them just to watch them. Are they bad? They get worse?
Yeah, they get worse. The first one was, okay.
It's so cheesy.
Yeah, it gets worse and worse. Bella's the worst. Like, I always thought Edward, I thought he'd be like an emo dude, but he's actually like tries to just stay pretty chill, but Bella's the one that's all super emo all the time and whining and crying. And
but
although the second one is when Jacob takes his shirt off and he's like super ripped.
Oh yeah, he's just like kind of a long-haired teen in the first one.
Yeah, second one. Well, they wanted fun fact, they wanted to recast him for that role because he was so skinny. And he said, listen, if you guys will just give me some time, I will pack on the muscle. And he got completely jacked for the second one. I
thought it was odd that they didn't really introduce him as a werewolf at all in the first one. Like,
yeah,
I know just, from pop culture that he's the werewolf. They kind of hinted around. Yeah. They hinted around to it, with they kind of come up at one point and Edward's like, you guys are like a pack of wolves. And I was like, oh, I get that reference. I get that because I know that he's going to be a werewolf. So, yeah, but that was my vacation. It was great. Had a great time.
Other than the scenery, didn't you go to like some good landmarks? Didn't you see any like grunge landmarks or any video game? I know you didn't. You go to some places.
Well, we went to Seattle, and I'm on next week's pickups. I'm going to kind of divulge what I picked up video game wise from Seattle. We flew in and out of Seattle, and so there's a ton of places in Seattle for like it's just like a music and video game mecca. Like
that's just, where all the retro games in the country are.
That's where all the vinyl. I saw the vinyil store you guys went in.
Oh yeah, because you went to Pink Gorilla. That's right.
Yeah, vinyl stores were crazy. They did you see the one snap I sent Michael of that Nirvana like concert poster? They had it, so Peyton wanted to go into this vinyl store in Seattle, so we went in, just a typical like hole in the wall vinyl shop, and like there on the wall is like looks like a handmade poster from Nirvana, like Nirvana and Joey and the Chestnuts at blah 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 this Saturday, and it's just like, so it looks like it's just like written on like a piece of construction paper, like with black marker, and you can tell they are like prizing it, because it's Nirvana and it's probably like before they got big. So just that kind of like little stuff. And I did see we weren't super close to it, but we saw signs for Aberdeen, Washington, which is like Cobain's like hometown. So thought that was kind of cool. Like we're just up there, like right in the middle of all that stuff, man. Like stuff you just constantly see like little references to like 90s, because that's kind of like what their that music scene from the 90s. But it was fun. Like Seattle's a little, so Diane and I went there like 3 years ago for a Guns N' Roses concert, like where the Seahawks play, just like a quick trip. It's changed a little bit, and it's not for the good. So they have a real bad homeless problem right now, like real bad. And it was interesting to kind of let Peyton see like what was going on. Like they have like entire roads blocked off with like orange construction barrels, and just like it's like tent cities. And it's like real sad, and like Peyton's like, what? He just had a bunch of questions. I tried to help him answer them as best I could, but it's crazy, it's just crazy. But anyway,
all right,
it was fun, good trip. I recommend it to anybody.
It looked awesome. I would love to go to those mountains and hike and all day long and stuff.
The weather, if you go in the summer, like you just will not be disappointed. Like you just really feel so insignificant when you're standing up there as high as we were, and you look around and like you just nothing but it's just like Frodo, man. You're just like looking out at the trail. It's good. So that's it.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds awesome. So we did a thing, I guess. I hate it when people say that, but I guess we did. But we discovered, I guess, we got our heads together, and we wanted to kind of get our name out there a little bit more and try to connect with people a little bit more. And we'd been, Pete, you'd been on TikTok for a little while longer than Matt and I had.
Oh yeah,
and so I finally downloaded it, and I'd been kind of browsing it from afar for a little while. And then Matt kind of jumped into the fray. But yeah, we're just going to talk.
Never in a million years would I have thought.
We're just going to talk a little bit about us being on TikTok, anything new show, anything new live stream, us in general. We have personal accounts plus this account, which we're going to share. We're going to start trying to share a little bit more footage with. I know that once I got, I mean, everybody says this, and I even saw there's just funny TikToks about it. You know, you download the app as a joke, and then you're addicted to it, which I never in a million years thought it would be as good as it is, you know, now. And just the fact that the algorithm that it uses gets stuff in that you want to see in front of your face. And it's so easy and it's so entertaining, and there's talented people on there, and it's not just for youths, even though that's where, you know, most of it
I
is.
feel like it is. I feel like we're the 3 oldest guys on the entire thing. I'm pretty sure.
We're not. But pretty much Matt's first TikTok pretty much went viral with it. It was
well, I don't know about
that. But my first one did pretty well. I just kind of put something out there. I just wanted to show some records I had, because one of ZZ Top's their bass player had died, and you know, I always like to tweet something out or put something on social media just to kind of show homage to someone that was one of my dad's favorite bands was ZZ Top, and we always listened to ZZ Top, you know, growing up. And it was just something that I thought was cool, because that was some of his records I showed on there, and it's over, like, it's got like 5,500 views, and I guess people just liked it because it just showed me playing some records. So I like kind of being a part of that community, and you know, everything else. So what do you guys got any input on that?
Well, Pete makes awesome video game videos about, hey, check this game out, and it's friggin' Spy Hunter or Batman Desert Strike, or, you know, Batman Arkham City, or what. Like, I love those things. Like, those things are so cool to see. I love seeing your game. I mean, I've seen it before, but I love seeing your game room. I love that other people get to see your game room.
Yes.
Get some facts about some retro games. I think you know, a lot of people love that stuff, and it brings out a good community interaction, that kind of thing. So Pete does a great job on those, and we need more.
The good thing about TikTok is I feel like it gives the little guy a chance, or it just gives you, you know, it just does such a good job of letting people see, you know, posts, if you post about a certain subject. Whereas other ones like Instagram or Twitter, maybe you have to rely on people that are following you. So you have to work really hard to get followers before people see your stuff. TikTok's algorithm is just so random and kind of tuned in that it just, I don't guess force feed is the word, but it does like really get people. Like, I've never had anything I've ever posted ever just view. And even though it's a 1 to 3 minute clip, it's something that you created and you can interact. And like I said, and I told Matt this earlier, it's like social media is kind of like, if you like something and you want to connect with other people. Like, I don't have a lot of people around me that like records or VHS tapes, or, you know, I can find people that like Star Wars and stuff like that. But, you know, it's really good to see, and everything's on there. Like, you know, Pete likes landscaping stuff, and, you know, life hacks and everything is on there. So, you know, I think it's pretty cool, and I like it. And hopefully we can get in touch, get the word out about this show a lot more to people.
Yeah, so Anything New Cast on TikTok is where you can find this show. And like I said, Pete's got those cool video games, or we can do pickup stuff, pickup videos and clips from these shows and things like that. Yeah, I like it way better than I thought I would. I still think I don't know how to use most of them. Like, I think I only know how to use about 10% of it, all the filters and stuff. I don't really know how to do it. I don't really care. It's not really the kind of stuff I like to make. I don't need to rely on those things, but yeah, it's really fun.
Okay. All right, Matt, show me some pickups.
Well, I'll show a couple. I got a fun bag from Opey. I actually saw Opey on Friday, on his way down to Georgia. It's kind of weird that I didn't see him on.
Are we doing the fun bag pickups? Because I put.
Well, I'm just going to show a couple because it sort of falls in line with. But thanks to Opey, I got a couple more of these guys, the little 3 3/4 inch Marvel Legends. I have both of them, but I was wanting doubles so that I could open them. So I'm going to rip these open. So thanks for that. But my two main pickups for the week, I picked up the old McFarlane Toys Doctor Strange. See if I can get him out of the glare there.
Doctor Strange.
I mean, I'm sorry, Dr. Fate.
Whoa,
Dr. Fate, not Doctor Strange. Dr. Fate. I like Dr. Fate. He's super cool. Oh man, Opie left because I was going to show this next thing, which I think you'll both really like. I'll wait for him to come back. So yeah, Dr. Fate's super cool. And waiting for him to put his. There he is. Okay, and then the other one. So that Dr. Fate came in today. As long as it's a Christmas ornament, but it is a Super Nintendo.
I've seen
nice.
this, and it makes noise.
It makes noises. Yeah, it comes with batteries, and you push the power button, and I don't know what noise it makes, but it makes noise. So shout out to our buddy Dave. He was the one that showed me this, and I went on Amazon and pre-ordered it, and it showed up.
I've seen it on TikTok.
Oh yeah,
it makes noise.
Yeah. So that came in today, so I can't wait to put that on the old Christmas tree.
That's awesome.
Christmas. Yeah. That's it.
Okay, so I got a couple of pickups. And thanks, and I'm going to go, since we did our little exchange, since I ran it, stopped by Matt's house. Yeah. He was able, because he's got Targets and I don't, pick up the Rise of Evil 2-pack for the Masters of the Universe Origin. This is Keldor and Cronus, which is, the origin is, this is Skeletor before he gets the skeleton face, and this is Trapjaw before he gets rebuilt. That's these two characters. So there's a battle that takes place in the palace. And you can actually see this battle take place on the 2002
series. Yeah.
2002
really
series. Cool. This actual battle takes place in the first episode. If you want to watch that on there too. But I just love the box art on these Masters of the Universe.
What happened to Trapjaw? Like, did he have a jaw before? What was going on? What happened?
Yeah, I think he was injured or got shot or something.
Yeah, I don't
remember.
That
would be pretty gnarly to see somebody's jaw ripped off and then put on with like a metal new jaw.
Yeah, that's whew. And then I got Panther, which is Skeletor's. This is a Target thing too. The one you find at Walmart's flocked, so it's fuzzy. Which the original one was flocked.
The original's flocked, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to find that too as well. I'll buy it. But I really think, Matt, I'm glad that you've got Targets because...
I mean, I have a Target. Doesn't mean there's ever anything there ever, but,
Right. And I picked up a few things at Goodwill. All the books at Goodwill are $1. So I picked up some Star Wars novels.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Yeah, let me go through these real quick.
All non-canon, thanks Disney.
Yeah, these are pretty much chapter books like you would get at the book fair and things like that.
Oh yeah,
they're kind of right
at your
at
reading level.
Yeah, these are two novels here. This series is called Young Jedi Knights, and I think it's just a 3-book series here. That one is, I guess it follows some Young Jedi Knights.
I'm sorry, I should have been doing our thing here.
You should have made it big.
Here we go.
I got to redo my pickups then. Okay, so
now,
I got this.
This one I got excited for when I saw it, but it's not. It's more. It's a. This is a, what do they call it? It's like a dumbed down version of the actual novel. It's the Shadows of the Empire, but it's not the full novel.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a novelization. That's what they call it. Yeah, which is just a kind of. I was wondering why it was so thin. I was like, man, I'll knock that out. But it's the original's a big one. And now here's 3 from the episode 1. These are called journals. I guess it follows each character. There's Queen Amidala, and there's Annie, and then there's Darth Maul, of course. And I guess these
and Jar Jar. Where's Jar Jar?
Now this is a series. I think there's 12 books in this, and I got like 6 of them. They're called Jedi Apprentice series. So this one is actually sealed. It's got 2 in it, but there's a Dark Rival. It's a Jedi Apprentice story. Here's one with Qui-Gon teaching him how to drive the ice road trucker. Here's Qui-Gon again, learning skills.
If your daughter ever gets captured, here's what you do.
Yep.
Fly to Paris and punch everybody.
Yep. And there's some young Jedis on that too, some apprentices and some younglings. And here's with the worst Yoda. The episode 1 Yoda is the worst.
Yoda.
Is the worst Yoda. No, it was full CG Yoda, wasn't it?
No,
it
not
was
in episode
puppet
1.
Yoda.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was. You're right, but it was still bad. But anyway, so a buck a piece. I could probably read those real quick if I wanted to. I always say that. I end up never reading it, but yeah, I thought I'd pick those up. I can't let that go. But yeah, that was it.
That one scene, like where where he's fighting Dooku, where Yoda, it's just like he's just like doing like 1,000 flips at a time.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on here?
I thought that was cool. I thought, oh, he's
It was
tapping into the
cool.
Force. And
It was cool, but
him.
geez Louise.
Yeah.
It was just
Well, how else? I mean, you know,
Frank Oz would roll around in his grave.
Well, but I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're gonna have a little 2-foot guy just.
I mean, they could have had him fight. They could have had him fight like Obi-Wan and Vader in A New Hope, you know, where they're just like.
Well, I'd rather. I wish that. I'd love to see that fight redone, but
that was like 2 90-year-old dudes.
Yeah,
having lightsabers. When you go back and watch that one after you've seen like the later ones, you know, you're like, okay.
Well, that's what I remember seeing when I saw episode 1. That was the thing that I think took me aback the most, was like they were really fighting with their lightsabers instead of what we had seen from the original trilogy, where it was just kind of like these guys were, you know, and where Qui-Gon stuck it into the door and started melting it, so he used it more like a tool than a weapon. I thought that was really cool.
That was cool.
And speaking of Star Wars pickups, Opie also got the Black Series Mandalorian figure in his fun box, but you know, it's fine. You don't have to.
It's already back there on my shelf, right next to the Beskar Mandalorian.
That was in his second fun box.
And the Obi-Wan Kenobi on the card is right over there, up there on the top shelf.
Oh, and also, you know, a Fisher Price Millennium Falcon with all the figures. It's no big deal.
They're right there. There's the Obi-Wan, and there is the Mandalorian right there. So anyway, I'm gonna hit us up on the social medias, guys. It's the Anything Newcast on Twitter at Anything Newcast, Instagram Anything New Podcast. Well, even though we're not really a podcast anymore, but that's okay. On TikTok, it's Anything Newcast. And Gmail, email us at Gmail, anything new podcast at gmail.com. And our YouTube, it's a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/anything new YT for YouTube. And Discord, you can join our Discord. It's wide open. Just hop on in. It's a bit.ly/anything new Discord 1. That was a long episode. We had to catch up on some stuff.
Yeah, we had some stuff to catch up on. Yeah, they're not all this long.
Yeah, next week, Matt, make sure you watch The Right Thing. We're watching Midnight Run.
Listen, next week I'll talk about the first 4 episodes of Heist
on Netflix. And maybe we'll watch some stuff that was on the list. Maybe I'll get around to watch the Suicide Squad, and we can give some reviews on that stuff. So, you know, just come in next time. Do you guys like my shirt? Nobody even said anything.
I do like your shirt.
Well, I didn't say anything because I've seen it before.
Right. So I don't think Pete's seen it before. Pretty cool. So
yeah, you're getting a radar lock on there.
There you go.
That's Darth Vader's TIE fighter, right?
It's mostly TIE fighters.
Any TIE
fighters, you know, system. But yeah. So all right, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next week, everybody.